Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fast Line Podcast. Stephen, Charlie, and Connor once again. We're just going to run through the round 16 results and then preview the quarterfinals. A lot of shocks throughout the competition, so it should be an interesting chat anyway. But I think we should start with the first one, which was Wales v Denmark. I mean, to be fair, I thought Wales put up a better fight. Like, I thought it'd be closer. Um, but yeah, Denmark just blew them away. And I think I didn't expect Wales to get out of the group in the first place, but like I thought they were good in the groups, um, and like showed their quality, especially against Turkey. But Charlie against Denmark just got absolutely blown away.
Yeah, I don't think it was a 4-0 game, but like it obviously ended up that way. A big mistake from Neco Williams, I think. But
Oh my god, that
it
guy
was
stinks.
really poor defending. He might need to like go out on loan. In I don't know what you think of him as a Liverpool supporter, but
He's
he
shit.
doesn't look good enough. Uh,
Yeah,
that lad Mela, I think he's been one of the players of the tournament so far. He has so much energy. He plays left wing back. I think he's usually a right wing back for Atlanta, but he looks really good. I wouldn't be surprised if a Premier League club tries to buy him. I think he only joined Atlanta in January, but I think he has 2 goals now and maybe an assist. So
yeah.
it's been really good. And I think Denmark, after what happened to Ericsson, I think everyone's kind of hoping they can go as far as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone that's kind of the second team at the moment, and like they're playing. Who are they playing next? Switzerland? Is it? No, Czech Republic in the quarterfinals. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Connor on Wales, just quickly, like obviously we know about Nico Williams. He is shit. Like he's so bad. But to be fair to him, like like it wasn't just because of him or his defending. Like Bale and Ramsey couldn't get on the ball at all, and the rest of them were just really poor.
Yeah, I mean, we Wales are kind of their two sort of star players would be Ramsey and Bale, but I mean they're kind of getting on a bit now. They're not able to do what they used to be able to do,
Yeah,
and they're just Wales aren't. They don't really have the youth coming through that like they have like they've Dan James and people like they're not really that exciting to be watching, and they don't really get you that many goals. And I think Denmark are a difficult team to beat, but I think Wales did exceed expectations to get out of the group in the first place. But I think when they saw that, especially their sort of side of the route to the final, I think Wales would have seen that, and if they'd beaten Denmark, like who knows, they could have beaten Czech Republic as well. Like they could have actually gone far in the tournament, so they will be disappointed about that.
yeah,
But I think overall, I think Denmark just they show that they have been, and they are like one of the better sides in Europe. To be honest, at the moment, they always seem to be able to put up a fight against the biggest teams, and you often see teams slip up, but Denmark just don't seem to be slipping up against smaller teams. I know they did against Finland, but that was kind of a bit of an exception with the whole Ericsson thing happening.
yeah. I think the Ericsson thing has like it's obviously they've used it to kind of fuel like revival in the tournament, because obviously like they were the first 2 games they lost both of them, and the last 2 games they've just been brilliant, and I think they will beat the Czech, so they can get to a semi-final. Like that's even like that is crazy stuff. On to the next game, which was Italy v Austria. I mean, this was probably a bit tighter than I thought it would be. Like I thought Italy would probably be a bit more comfortable, but I thought like Austria like really gave it to them. I thought the first half it was all Italy, but then the second half Austria came out and Italy were like proper shaky. And Arnautovic goal, like I actually, because obviously I'm back in Italy, I shot myself. I thought that was it. Like he scored that, but it was obviously given out offside. But I mean, they really put it up to them. Italy obviously did well in extra time. I thought there were 2 really good goals. Um, and then they kind of took control. But I mean, like Austria can be proud of the fact that they took Italy to extra time. And also they broke that record. Or not broke the record, they like they scored against Italy, and they Italy had like 11 clean sheets in a row. So that's something to be proud about as well. But yeah, Charlie, we a bit surprised about how tight it was in the end.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the story of the tournament. Like you're expecting these bigger teams to blow the smaller teams away, and it just doesn't pan out that way. And sometimes it leads to a shock, just like the France result. Obviously, Chiesa scored an extra time. I'm not sure why he's not starting from the beginning. I would have said Chiesa would have been one of their main men going into the start of the tournament, but he seems to prefer Berardi.
Yeah,
I just think Berardi, he looks good, and then his final ball is just terrible most of the time. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chiesa starts from the start next match, because I think he's the better player overall. They did get a bit lucky with the VAR decision,
yeah,
but obviously he was offside, so it was right in the end. But like, we'll make exceptions because Italy have been so good in every one of their other games. Maybe they just had an off night. Obviously, I think they had to travel this time. It wasn't like a home game. It wasn't
yeah,
in Rome, so like we can make exceptions. They have Belgium in the next round. I think like they would want a better performance than that. Otherwise, I can't see them going out if they play the way they did.
yeah. I agree. I think they do. Like, I think with Italy, the attitude always been like, look, as long as they got the win, like they don't really care. Like, I'm sure like the more experienced players be telling the younger lads, but they'll be telling them that like as long as we got the win, it's fine, and we'll look ahead to Belgium. But yeah, kind of just quickly on Austria. I mean, they did have chances to win the game, but like, I do you think. I don't know. It's a weird one. Like obviously the Arnautovic goal was clearly offside if you're using VAR, but like apart from that, they did have other chances. So do you think they might be a little bit disappointed that they didn't nick it at the end, like before extra time? That is before extra
Yeah, I mean, I think they will be. I mean, Italy, like obviously we're one of the favorites going in,
time.
but it's knockout football. Like anything can happen. And especially the fact that Italy, they were having an off night. So I think Austria will have been, when they look back on the game, they will be disappointed that they didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah,
Because I mean, they did have chances to put the game away and to get a winner before sending it to extra time. But you have to give Italy credit because they did fix up for extra time. They got their job done in the end and got through. Like that's all that matters in the end. It doesn't matter if you scrape through from like a lucky goal right at the end. But yeah, Austria definitely, like, it's not though as though they didn't have chances in the game. Like they had loads of chances to score, but
yeah. I
just
mean,
couldn't put any of them away.
yeah. Obviously, I'm happy Italy are gone through, but I'd be like, I'm expecting a better performance come Saturday, I think, or Friday, I think it is, against Belgium. Next game, the Dutch lost to the Czechs 2-0. I mean, people call this a shock. To be fair, like they were good in the group, the Dutch, but like everyone was kind of expecting, like they kind of just they bottled it really. Like they kind of went back to that pre-tournament form where they were losing loads of games. They were just abysmal. I thought like they were good at the start of the game, and then once that red card came into Ligt, that was just dumb. Like why would you do that? Like that is just stupid. And then the Czechs kind of ran away with it in the end. Charlie, on the Netherlands, like obviously we had a few of the Dutch players in our fantasy, to be fair. Like we thought, you know what, they might have a good tour, they might go deep into the tournament considering they're on the easier side of the draw, but absolute disaster. Who would you put the blame on for this one? Like, do you think it's down to the coach or the players just didn't turn up?
I think probably a mixture of both.
Yeah,
It's a very inconsistent side. I think if you did put Van Dijk back in, they would find more consistency. But obviously, they didn't have him. They didn't have that kind of leader. I think he's kind of been disappointing since he's joined Juventus. To be honest, like he was meant to be progressing into one of the best centre halves in the world. I don't really think it's panned out that way. Obviously, he got the red card, and it kind of cost his team in the end. As you said, pre-tournament, their form was really bad. They're just a really inconsistent side, and obviously the manager has lost his job now, so that's probably the end of his footballing career. I think or his managerial career even, because I think he's got sacked in every job he's been involved in now. So
Oh,
like
he was
they need to make.
awful.
They have really good talent in the Dutch side. Like they're one of the few teams that have players coming through, like Wijndal, Timber, even De Ligt is
Gravenberch.
he's young. Yeah, Gravenberch. Depay isn't that old. Malin. They have Boadu as well, who scored in the under-21 tournament. So they need to make sure they get the appointment right, and it doesn't necessarily mean they have to appoint someone that's Dutch. I know national teams, they love appointing people from their own country, but like if they can get a serious manager in, they may start competing for these tournaments, because at the moment they're kind of an easy game really, because you never know what Netherlands are going to turn up. It could be the one that's on fire and blows you away, or it could be the one that turned up against Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a huge disappointment in the Netherlands. Like there's probably a lot of optimism after the group, and considering they're on the easier side of the draw, like they're probably expecting to get to maybe a semi-final. But yeah, disaster, and he has been sacked. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of inevitable. I always felt he was going to get sacked eventually. He's an awful manager. Failed at Crystal Palace, failed at Inter, failed everywhere he's going basically. So yeah, Connor, anything on Czech Republic before we move on?
Yeah, I think they've been quite impressive actually, Czech Republic this tournament. Obviously they got that win against Scotland in their first game, 2-0, and I mean, I don't think many people sort of expected them to go out of the group, to be honest with you. And I mean, they've done it in the end. They've gone out, and I think they do actually play good football. Like it is good to watch, and I think they're kind of, they enjoy being the underdogs, because it just gives them the license to kind of just go for it instead of just being really cautious about it. And listen, fair play, I know they did get a bit lucky with De Ligt getting sent off, so they had the extra man. But I mean, yeah, fair play to them. And as you said, Denmark next, like if they, for either side of that, like one of them is going to go through to the semis now, and that'd be big for whoever does go through.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Czechs will fancy themselves. Like even though Denmark are very like they're probably the favourites, but I would like the Czechs won't be like afraid of it, and they'll go. And I think they have a really good shot to get to the semis. Onto the big game of the week, which was kind of a shit show to be fair. Like Belgium, Portugal. It was. I didn't like that game at all. Belgium kicked out the 1-0 win. Torgan Hazard. I think De Bruyne went off injured. The Torgan's brother Eden went off injured. But apart from that, it was just a bit of a boring game. Like, I mean, I want to focus on Portugal because for me, like, I was so disappointed with so many players. I thought Jota wasn't great. Ronaldo was a bit washed, isn't he? Like, he is a bit washed. Let's be real. He's a bit washed. Bruno was shy when he came on. Bernardo Silva was not really that good. João Felix, 100 and what million? That guy just isn't good. Like, I just don't see I don't get what people see in him. But yeah, Charlie, for Portugal, like, where you think it went wrong, you just think they're just outplayed by a better team. But I just feel like it's a deeper problem than that.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a poor game. Like if you look at the quality on show, the players, you would have expected it a bit better than that. There wasn't really even any chances. Really, they just kind of scored a pot shot, Belgium. Portugal, like they have all this talent and they're just not using it correctly. I don't think. Like they have all these attacking players, but their defense and their two pivot players, like realistically, they're not great. Like they're not going to win you a tournament. I know they have Diaz, but he had a really bad tournament. Like and Semedo and Dallo at right back, obviously. Cancelo had to pull out with COVID, and Pereira would usually be available, but those two were terrible. Like Semedo got done for so many goals. He obviously got dropped. Dallo came in. He wasn't great either, if we're being honest. And I think the only positive they can take from the tournament is Renato Sanchez. I think he was sensational, really. He just, the way he drove forward from midfield, he was one of the only players who like stood out. So I think he might get a move to the Premier League. I think Arsenal are interested in him. I saw him, Gabriel commented on one of his Instagram posts saying, come to Arsenal. And Sanchez responded saying, I'm waiting for the invitation. So
We're
Arsenal
so
fans,
unserious. Why can't we just go get him? Like, we're so shit, man. Oh my god, I don't want to talk about it.
I think everyone just remembers him for his time at Swansea and the way he's kind of flopped, but
Yeah,
he obviously left Bayern and he's turned his career around at Lille, and
yeah,
he was really good this tournament. I'd personally love if United would go in for him because he just looks a complete player, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I think he was probably Portugal's best player this tournament. Obviously, Ronaldo's got the goals, but I'm really impressed by him. He's kicked on at Lille and he's actually like showing his talent now. But yeah, Connor, quickly on Belgium. I mean, through to the next round, it wasn't, brilliant from them. Lukaku wasn't as he was a bit quiet, I thought. But going into the quarterfinals potentially without De Bruyne and Hazard, I don't know what the crack is with them because like half the journalists are saying that they're not fit, the other half are saying that they are. What are we like? Are you optimistic that they can beat Italy even if they don't have they don't have De Bruyne or Hazard?
I think they will struggle if they don't have the two of them. I mean,
Yeah,
we saw the difference in the group stage when De Bruyne would literally come onto the pitch and he score and he got an assist to win the game.
yeah,
And I think without the two of them, like their two star players, Hazard and De Bruyne, I think they look a bit unsure of how to kind of create chances to score goals. Almost,
yeah.
it's almost like they're
Especially without De
relying
Bruyne.
on. To be fair, Torgan Hazard, like he is a good player now as well, but I just feel like if they were to be without De Bruyne and Eden Hazard, I think that would be massive for it. Like Italy would look at that then, and they'd be
Yeah,
strong favourites then going into it. Like I know it's only two players, but like the difference that those two make, like De Bruyne can literally, we've seen him do it before. He just wins games by himself.
yeah, definitely. We'll move on to the next game. Spain beat Croatia. That was a mad game. Spain looked like they were sailing. Then two late goals for Croatia, forced extra time, and then Morata and I'm not going to even try to say that last name, but it's Ayosabal, the winger, made it 5-3 to Spain. I mean, Spain were probably they probably were the better team overall. They had the better chances and they eventually showed their class in the end. But that's another game with 5 goals for Spain. And literally, our last podcast, we were literally saying, where Spain going to score goals? And they scored 10 in the last 2. So, I mean, they've answered that well. I think that Croatia obviously put up a really good fight. 3-1 down and out more or less, and they got the goals in the end. But I mean, Charlie, with Spain, like, do you see them as a contender now? Like, they're on the side of Belgium and Italy, but like it was always the concern where their goals going to come from. But now they've showed it. Like they've showed that they can score goals. So do you see them as a contender?
I don't really know. I don't know if they're overrated or underrated. Like some people have completely written them off and think they'll be out next round, and others think, yeah, they could go far. I think like the players they have, they're not global stars. Like they're not what you would associate a Spanish
I
team
know,
with.
yeah.
Like they have changed their midfield recently. They brought Busquets back in. I think they were starting with was it Rodri? I think it might have
Yeah,
been
Rodri
someone else.
stinks.
Busquets is back in now, so there's just more progressive passing. At least they're moving the ball forward quicker. Sarabi has come in, and I think he's a good player. Just because he's a fourth choice player for PSG doesn't mean he's not a good player. Like he does clearly have talent. Morata, obviously he got his goal, but like this, when he's gone through, you just don't think he's going to score. Like you're just certain of a miss, and like that's not really what you want from one of your strikers. Like, and obviously they did kind of throw the game. Like they were 3-1 up with what 5 minutes left, and then Orsic scored, and it just got shaky every time Croatia went forward. It just looked like they were going to create a chance, and obviously it got to extra time. I think they were kind of lucky to get away with it, to be honest. And like they're definitely going to have to defend better than that if they want to go any further in the tournament. I think he dropped Alba for some reason. I'm not really sure what that was about. He brought in Gaia, but I would have thought Alba, like he was very important to Spain in the earlier on games. Like he got a couple of assists. So I think Alba will come back in. Maybe that'll make them a bit stronger.
Azpilicueta.
Yeah, Azpilicueta's come in for Llorente. I don't know why he wasn't playing from the start, really. Like, why are you playing a centre mid and Llorente at right back? I'm not really sure. So obviously he got the goal and it worked out well. But like Azpilicueta, he does lack pace, and if he came up against like a very good left winger, they could be in trouble down the wings, because Alba's not the best defensively either, and the centre backs, like, I think was it Garcia or Torres who played with Laporte?
Garcia.
Yeah, it was Garcia. Like, I wouldn't be trusting him really. Like, I know he played for City, but he's not the most experienced.
He's not very good.
Yeah.
He's not very good. Yeah, I don't really think there's much to say in Croatia, to be fair. I mean, obviously they did well to come back. I'd say they were absolutely, like, just knackered come extra time, and it was just a matter of time for Spain to finish them off. I mean, can't you have anything on Croatia or Spain? We can move on if you like, but if you do.
Yeah, no, not really much. I mean, like Croatia's team, like it hasn't really changed much. So like they are getting older. They don't have as much sort of energy in the midfield anymore, or in the whole team. And then Spain, I think they are one of the teams before. You said them and Netherlands have kind of underperformed in the last few years. And Netherlands they did underperform this tournament, but to be fair to Spain, they seem to have gotten their act together now, and they look like they're kind of starting to play good football again. So they could be one good to watch in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Next game, well, the biggest story, I think, France were 3-1 up against Switzerland, bottled it and then lost on penalty. So Sefric scored the first goal. Then Switzerland missed a penalty. Rodriguez missed. Then Benzema got a quick fire double. Then Pogba scored an absolute screamer of a third goal. It was unbelievable. And then people thought, yeah, that's game over. Then Sefric scored a second goal. I don't really know how that happened. I just looked up at Sefric was wheeling away in celebration. And then the third goal, I mean, we won't talk about how that third goal happened, because I don't know. I kind of forget, actually, to be fair. But yeah, and Sefric, I don't know Sefric. I'm not going to try to say that guy's name. What's his name? Gavranovic. Got the equaliser. Went extra time, no goals. Went to penalties. Everyone was scoring. And then it came to Kylian Mbappe. More or less straight. The keeper was a shit penalty, and Switzerland are through. Charlie, on France, just absolute disaster. Like, I just think, like, that is, for a world champion to let that game slip, it's just embarrassing. And I think the French media tore into them the next day. Deschamps is probably looking at his final days in the job. It's just tragic.
Yeah, I did tell you this. Like, France, they're really not that good. When I was watching them in the World Cup qualifiers against a smaller team, they seem to show up against bigger teams, but against smaller teams, they kind of struggle to break them down, and they do concede sloppy goals. I don't think Kimpembe is the answer to their problems. I think as Koundé develops, he'll probably become first choice, because Kimpembe has just made so many mistakes for France now. I think he scored an own goal in the World Cup qualifiers, and also he was just left on his arse by Gravanovic. No one really mentions that because Pogba lost the ball, but it's shocking from a supposedly world-class defender. Some people call him, like, he got put in a spliff really by some nobody. So, like, it doesn't bode well. Like, I think Deschamps, he'll probably have to go now. It's probably for the best, really, because, I mean, some of his decisions were laughable. Like, Ferland Mendy was injured. Okay, he would have made it back for that game, and, like, he puts Leo Dubois in the squad. Who's a wing back, and then he ends up playing Rabiot at left back. Like, when Dubois can play either side, why didn't he just put Mendy in the squad? Why didn't he put Theo Hernandez in the squad? Why is Moussa Sissoko anywhere near the squad when he has the likes of Camavinga and Aouar at his disposal? And then
why did Martial not get in the squad?
Also, the reliability of the forwards, like, they go to a tournament. Coleman gets injured, then Dembele gets injured, Lamar gets injured, and Thuram gets injured. Two of them were in training, and the other two, like, there has to be. You can't rely on any of these players. And then Ben Yedder, he brings Ben Yedder. He doesn't play a single minute. He needs a goal. Does Ben Yedder come on? No. It's really confusing. Like, why were these players in the squad? They were just literally there to make up the numbers. They were there. They weren't there to actually play or contribute at all to the team. He seemed to have he had about 13 players he was willing to use, and then the rest were just there to make up the numbers and be a part of the squad. And it's just like, he needs to be more sensible with the players he puts in the squad. I'm not saying Martial should have been in the squad because he was injured, but there's certainly players, even the players who were in the under 21s, some of them should have been in the main squad. I would have said, I already mentioned Camavinga and Awar. They're certainly better than Sissoko. So I think they'll probably bring in Zidane now, and I would say they'll be a threat for the World Cup.
Yeah, definitely. I think Zidane's the perfect appointment for them. I think they will definitely be a threat for the World Cup and tournaments going far. But Connor, Switzerland, have to give them credit. They were 3-1 down, came back, and then won on penalties. They go into the Spain game tomorrow, on top of the world. They probably think, look, we just beat the world champions. Of course, we can just go beat Spain. They must be really up for it now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone fancied France going into that. Especially they went 3-1 up. Everyone was kind of game over. Yeah. But I mean, Switzerland, they didn't give up. They didn't roll over. They came straight back at them and got the goals and got through in the end on penalties. Yeah. I think, especially when you have a game that the end of it is that dramatic and stuff like that, and you come out on top, it makes you feel even better, and especially beating the world champions as well. So I think they'll win to that game against Spain. They won't be sort of fearing Spain at all. I think they'll be going into this game thinking, look, we've beaten France, we can go and beat anyone now. And I mean, rightly so. That's the kind of, they do need that kind of determination if they want to actually progress past the quarters now.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge one. I think even if they get knocked out against Spain, they'll be proud of the performance this tournament. Apart from the first game against Italy. But yeah, I think they can just be proud that they have managed to get to a quarterfinal, beating the world champions. We're going to move on to the next game. England beat Germany 2-0. I mean, it's 2 World Wars, a World Cup, and then a round 16 win in year 2020. I mean, people were criticizing Southgate a lot. He did the job, and I mean, I think, look, you can talk about how the style of play, you can talk about how the World Cup run was a Mickey Mouse run, but if you're an England manager and you beat Germany in major tournaments, I mean, you're not many people are going to hate you after that. I think that is huge for Southgate, especially. I mean, England just deserved it in the end. I think it was a tight game. I think Germany didn't necessarily play poorly, but Muller, that chance, Christ almighty. I mean, that guy's been around for nearly 2 decades, right? No, not 2 decades. That's a lie. 15 years he's been playing, right? How is he not? He scores them every week in, week out in Germany, yeah, and he missed it. I'd say he was probably that was just so poor. I put my house on scoring that, and he drags it wide. But let's talk about England. Connor, you backed England at the start of this tournament, to be fair to you. I mean, look, how especially in this game, I think a lot of it, they've just carried on what they did in the groups. They were defensively solid, and then they got the goal in the end. Is there anything you particularly like about how they played against Germany, or you just it was a case of just getting the win?
I think to be fair, their defense have been extremely solid this tournament. I think Maguire has been excellent at the back when he's come in. I think Pickford in net. Listen, I know he's a scumbag at club level, but I think for England, I think he's been.
He also has small arms.
He does. He has tiny arms, but I think he hasn't let him down at all this tournament. I think he's been really solid. He's made some really, really good saves. He he had the one-on-one chance there with Werner that he did really well with his angles there to close it off. The other one from Havertz, the kind of half volley, or no, it's a full volley actually.
Yeah.
And he did well to tip that over. And I think it kind of gives the midfielders and the attackers kind of more confidence and more license to kind of go forward because they know that the defense behind them will like hold firm.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I do think Southgate has done a good job, but why he isn't starting Grealish, like every time he comes on, he literally gets a goal involvement.
Yeah, that's one thing I would say.
Um,
Like, Grealish needs to start. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I don't know, like just have Sterling on. I think if he has Sterling on the right, possibly for pace. I know he's been playing him off the left, but if he has Grealish on the left, and Sterling on the right, I think that would work well. Kane, obviously, him scoring that will hopefully give him confidence now going in to the rest of the tournament. And I mean, like as a striker, like if you don't score, like you obviously are thinking about it is on your mind, and
yeah,
especially so to get his first goal, hopefully he'll kick on from now and England will go all the way because I mean I kind of have to back them. I want Italy to win, but I did back England, so I hope they win it.
yeah. I mean, I think Luke was the one back in Germany at the start, so we don't really have his reasoning. Or Liam as well, friend of ours. He's back in
That's just
Germany.
because they studied. It's just because they did German for
He's
leaving.
a
Sure.
fraud. Liam, you're a fraud, by the way, if you're listening. Anyway, I think, yeah, Charlie, just quickly on Germany. Like, do you think they both be disappointed in themselves? Obviously, I think Lowe's going there, isn't he? Joachim Lowe. Is he leaving? I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah. So it's just kind of a new era for Germany. Tournament just didn't go to plan. I think they just need to prepare for the future now, and maybe get rid of the older players and then bring in some of the younger players. They do have good talent in like the 21s, and then obviously like Havertz, Gnabry, and all
Yeah, I think he did pick a strange team though. I'm not really sure why he played Werner. Like
that.
England were never going to play a high line with the likes of Maguire at the back. Like it was just never going to happen. Werner was never going to have the biggest impact on that game. I think he was kind of let down by some of his forwards though. I think Sane was way off it this tournament. He didn't. He's only started one of the games and like he only played 5 minutes when they needed a goal. So like that tells you the form he's in. I think Gnabry was poor as well. And Luke wanted me to mention that Muller was the worst player on the pitch. I know you've already kind of mentioned it, but I'll mention it again. It was a really bad display from Muller, who's supposedly like this
you don't really see
world-class
that from
player.
Yeah, it was poor from Cruz. Obviously he's decided to retire. Rice just killed him, so he just decided to retire. I mean, I've always said it. Cruz is washed. Like, if you want to get at a team that like Cruz cannot run, like he cannot run, like he actually can't. Like obviously, if you let him dictate the play, he's very good. But the guy cannot run. So just like he was just, I saw Pogba do it to him in the first game. Like he just made a show of him. But yeah, quickly before we do quarterfinal predictions, Ukraine beats the Swedes just at the end of extra time. Sweden obviously went down to 10 minute extra time, but yeah, Ukraine, they're playing England now. Like that is just a huge story. I'd love them to get through to the semi-finals. Connor, fair play, and Luke, if you're watching, fair play, you backed them. Yeah, Connor, I mean, we were out actually fair while this game was on, but I'm sure you've looked back on it. Like, how impressive have Ukraine been in this tournament to get to a quarterfinal?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think anyone really would have expected it before the tournament going into it, but I think it is well deserved. I mean, if you look at their form over the last few years, we did mention it just as the tournament was kicking off. Like their results to actually qualify for the tournament have been like they've put it up against some of the biggest teams that come away with wins or draws from it. And I think your man Yarmolenko, I think he's I know he didn't score the goal, but I think he's just been really influential for them. Zinchenko as well. I think he was poor in the first few games, but I think his leadership, like they're really benefiting from it. And I think like the players all seem quite close. they all seem to be just playing for each other. Like obviously you want that in a tournament, but
Yeah.
you often see like with some teams like this kind of divides between certain players. I think you see it with France, there's certain players that don't get on. But I think with the Ukraine team, they all seem very together. And I mean, going into the England game, like they're going to be underdogs going into that.
Yeah.
And I know I did predict England to win, but if Ukraine were to win, I do want Ukraine to win going into that.
Yeah. It'd be some
If
story.
Ukraine were to beat England, and I mean, look at this semi-final draw, like Denmark or Czech Republic. Like
Jesus.
they could back themselves. Imagine Ukraine getting to a final, like
That'd be
that would
crazy.
just
It'd be
that'd be one
Greece.
of the
It'd be Greece 2004 all over again. It'd be absolutely crazy. I mean, nothing to say much of Sweden. We'll go to the predictions. Quickly, I'm gonna go to you, Connor, first. I'll go Connor, Charlie, then me. Switzerland v Spain.
I'm going to predict Spain to go through in extra time.
Okay, Charlie.
I think Spain will have too much for them. I'd say 2-1 Spain.
I'm going 2-1 Spain as well. Right. Here's the big one. Connor, Belgium v Italy.
I'm going to back Italy to go through 3-2 in normal time.
Charlie.
I'm going to go 2-0 Belgium. Lukaku to score.
I'm going 2-0 Italy. Right. Connor, Czechs v Denmark.
I'm going to go. I'll go 2-1 to Czech Republic.
Okay, Charlie.
Yeah, I think Czech Republic will get the win as well. I fancy Schick to score.
I'm going 3-1 Denmark. Right. Ukraine, England. Is it coming home, Connor?
I don't want it to come home because I want Ukraine to win. So I backed them as dark horse for the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. This isn't what I think, but I'm gonna put it out there because I have to back Ukraine. Like I backed them as a dark horse before the tournament. I'm gonna predict them to win 2-1.
Okay. Charlie?
Yeah, I also backed them as dark horses, so I'm going to say Ukraine to win on penalties.
I'm going
Let's go.
2-0 England. That's what's happening. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like you're probably not wrong, but
yeah.
me and Charlie,
No
we have
fun.
to back Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, Italy are winning the whole thing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We're just basically running out of time here. Boys, thanks very much. Thanks very much for watching another one. We'll be back to react to the quarterfinals and preview the semi-finals. Sometime next week, I think. They end on Saturday, don't they? So we'll do Monday or something. We'll see. Yeah, thanks very much. Like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. Yeah, see you now.